Oh, howdy all, grab yourself a drink. It is time for some PathOfExile discussion. Today I wanted to have a look at the patch that was just live today, 3.20.1b, but rather than do this as a recorded video, I thought I would do it a little bit differently and throw it open as a community stream, get some input from some of you folks as well, and at least those of you that happen to be live at the time. If you're watching this after the fact, you'll be able to still watch it. It'll just be a normal YouTube video once the stream finishes, and if you're watching it during the stream and you sort of start a little bit late, you can always rewind, and you can also jump the speed up to 125%, which I think tends to be useful if you want to try to catch up, or even 150 or 175% if you prefer that way. That tends to be a bit harder to understand though. Okay, so the patch that went live today was 3.20.1b for Bravo, and this includes the Voidborn Reliquary key. The Voidborn Reliquary key was part of the top tier supporter packs that were added recently, and this is the one that provides a new, it doesn't grant you the key. You have to find the key in game, and it can drop from any monster that can drop a Divine Orb. We don't yet know enough to say definitively how rare it is. It's definitely at least as rare as a Divine Orb, and it's definitely no rarer than a Sacred Orb. But there's a huge gap between those two, and we're just going to have to wait until there's some large dataset samples. I kind of suspect that it'll be in the maybe 1 per 3 Divine Orbs that drop or something like that level over time, but that's just based on day one speculation. That could easily be wrong. We'll find out more information on that as time goes on. Anyways, the other things in the patch, there's a couple of changes to the Death Toll Major Affliction. So this causes monsters, instead of no longer dropping no coins, instead you're going to lose 250 resolve after completing 8 rooms. So this is very different to what it used to be. This will not affect existing runs. So this is something that was deemed probably a bit too nasty in the past, and now it's going to do something nasty that is different. Nasty in a different way. The Herald of the Scourge's lightning waves now function very differently to how they used to do, so keep that in mind, especially if you're going for a no-hit run. I believe this actually makes the no-hit run slightly harder than it used to be, but it makes beating the Herald of the Scourge in general easier than it used to be, but it's not a big change in either case. Hey Red, thank you. Also some improved visibility of the ground degen effect for fighting Lycia, which is a very welcome change. And there's an error message to clarify why you can't change your relics. But then there's the big change, which is, of course, the Voidborn Reliquary key being added. So there are 1,231 people who have bought the top tier pack and have submitted their Voidborn Reliquary. There's a bunch of people who are sitting on theirs as well. They want to see what other people are doing, and then at that point, they'll let that influence their decisions. So let's just say, for example, you were a player whose favorite 3 items in the game were the Covenant, let's say they were the Covenant, Replica Elbron's Warpath, and something really obscure, Shadow Stitch. So you're like, okay, I want to see, has anyone submitted any of these items? You look at the list of things for trade, you see, oh yeah, a couple of people have submitted the Covenant, I'm not going to submit that. Someone has submitted Replica Elbron's Warpath, I'm not going to submit that. No one seems to have submitted Shadow Stitch yet. Alright, I'm going to use my Reliquary submission on Shadow Stitch. What's the colour that I think will look best for it? And then you go and submit that. I think there's a bunch of people in that situation at the moment, and we'll start to see a bunch of those. There's a bunch of meme suggestions in there. So Not a Goose in chat is saying that they have memed theirs for Blightwell, which is a reasonably unpopular talisman. Hey, sorry about that. We just had a crash with OBS there, actually with my internet. Let's see if that has fixed itself. But yeah, like GGG's financials, you can look up their financial reports, and they make something like 95 million US dollars in purchases from customers. So in cash payments from customers. And that is primarily, at least my belief, it's primarily the $30 and $60 packs, maybe the 90 and 100 as well. But there are definitely a fair number of people that buy the higher ones. I think they've stopped selling the $1,000 US packs because I don't think they sold very well. But the $500 US packs definitely do sell. It's that thing where there's a few percent of people that are, you know, well, it's just some people are frugal in various ways. You know, people are frugal. Some people are frugal on their entertainment budget. Some people are like frugal on their residence, and as a result, you know, like me in a share house, I could afford to not be. But that means that I've got a lot of money to spend on, got some money to spend on other things. And that tends to be one of the things that comes up. So when you sell when you cash in the Reliquary, when you actually go into the Reliquary, you put it into map device, go in there and loot the item from it. it will then have a quote that comes up on screen. Now, I was really hoping they would get Azaro's voiceover guy to do those. I thought that would be fantastic, but they haven't. There's no voiceover. It's just a comment that appears in text chat, and that is the comment that people submit. That is not baked onto the item. So if you had two different people submitted Aureate Mage Bloods, one of them had a quote that was like, I don't know, Fool's Gold, and the other one had some insightful quote about, I don't know, the trolley problem, then you wouldn't know whether you got a trolley's problem or a Fool's Gold one. You'd never be able to tell. The items would be functionally identical, except at the moment they're actually pulled out of the Reliquary. Now, there's a number of people that have bought this pack that haven't yet got theirs organised as well. So basically, it seems like it's only 1 or 2% of GGG's revenue comes from these very high packs. That's my understanding of how it works. Now, there's a number of other things that have been changed in here in this patch as well, but the main thing I wanted to do with this stream was have a look at the things that have come up, where people have, what items people have pulled out of the Reliquaries so far. And there's a bit of a bias to looking at things in trade, but it's the best source we've got so far, where you can get a sense as to, one, how many of them are in circulation. So there are 266 of the Reliquaries up for sale at the moment. Note that these are in free fall in price. There were 8 divines at the start of the day. There were 6 divines a couple hours ago. Now they're 3.5, and they're just falling because people have worked out they're not worth multiple divines on average. The loot that you pull out of them is not worth all that much. The thing is that people want to be one of the first to pull something cool out of it. And as a result, there's a number of people who are rich in League that are like, you know what, I'm just going to goof off and dump a bunch of these. Lead Gaming EU is asking, will there be more of these will there be more items put into the Reliquary over time? Yes, there will be. This pack is probably only available until Christmas of 2023. So that may be the end of it, or they may decide to extend it into next year. I feel like the most likely thing is that they'll have another Reliquary key like it next year, or maybe something a bit different. They've been trying to find something along these lines for a while that they can do that's like a cool thing that doesn't have as much influence on the way the game is played as divination cards or custom uniques do. That's some of the things they did in the past when they were smaller. Anyways, let's have a look at what items are available here. The foil look is different. There's a bunch of different foils that you can get. So you can get when you submit it, you can choose between 6 different types. I'll just actually look up that listing now because I always forget what they all are. Foil variation: Amethyst, Verdant, Ruby, Cobalt, Sunset, and Aureate. So if you submit one, you can choose one of these. You only get to see what it will look like, a mock-up of what it would look like on Adsari's Disfavor. You don't get a mock-up of what it will look like on other things, on the actual item. So Diadian Dawn, I hadn't seen this. When I was going through these looking for what's been pulled out, I was having a look at everything that had been pulled out so far, and I was just curious what existed. These are interesting in that there's a bunch of different items that have been pulled out by people. Now, there'll be a weird bias by looking at what's listed for trade. You're going to see things that people don't want to equip themselves. Something that's quite universal appeal, like Bottled Faith, is likely to get equipped by most people. So we're going to see a bias against items that are very, very widely used and that don't have much variance between them. What item did I submit? Replica Cold Iron Point, because I thought it was something no one else was going to, and it's a fun item. I didn't submit a power item. I went for something that's just reasonably good. It's good enough to use, but that's just generally interesting and different rather than uber. So we have Diadian Dawn is one of the things. We have Archon Kite Shield. This is Prism Guardian, I believe. I hadn't seen that either. There's a number of face breakers doing the rounds, and if you want to check the numbers of a specific item, what you can do is have a look here. So type the item in, and then in trade, you're going to go for item rarity is exactly unique foil, and do a search on that. You see there's 12 face breakers listed, and there's different colors here. Now these are different submissions to each other. So this is I think this is the Amethyst, this is the Crimson, which I think is the best looking one of them. This is, I believe, Aureate, Crimson again, Amethyst again. No, maybe that's Amethyst, maybe it's Sunset. Those two are a bit harder to tell apart. I would like to see the ones... I would like to see what Chevy's saying about the items having the text on them. I think that would be cool, but they've just decided not to do that. And Jim, yeah, definitive deviation is definitely the hardest challenge this league. Is it, like... It's not as hard as the ones that have been nerfed in the past. There's a number that have been nerfed in the past that were absolutely ridiculous. Those ones have been... Yeah, those have been brought back down to earth. So there's another Prism Guardian. Actually, 2 different Prism Guardians here. That's interesting. So Prism Guardian in the golden, Prism Guardian in the sunset. So, no, that's Amethyst. Then Stormcloud's one of those weak items that a lot of copies of exist. Devouring Diadem is something that I've only seen one of. I'm expecting that boss uniques will be fairly rare. Yeah, it is definitely the Quarry stuff. Quarry and Ossuary, I think it is. One of the other zones is how people are getting around that. You can choose boss uniques, Richard, but I think that they've decided to go much, 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 much rarer on those. Much, much, much rarer. So Saffles is a medium rarity unique. This has been popular this league. I absolutely hate this item. It's not something I ever want to equip, and that's because the inability to use attack block as a defensive layer is so serious at the moment. Even on like a Juggernaut that can get a lot of physical mitigation, I really hate this item. Really hate it. It's not that it's absolutely always a trap, but in most situations I would rather +2 to all maximum elemental resistances on a just a magic shield that has only that one mod. I'd rather the Saffles Frame in most cases because losing all your attack block is just so painful. Anyways, rants about specific uniques aside. Karui Ward is a very common unique, and I've seen a few of these drop. I think it's one of the most common items in here. I might just check that out. Karui Ward. Oh no, there's only 3. There are 2 different versions of it. That's interesting. 2 different versions, but only 3 of the actual item. The Oppressor is dropping a lot. And I expect that this is something that we will continue to see more copies of. This is something that's been added solely to troll people, and it looks like there are 2 different versions of it. So we've got the sunset, we've got the golden foil, the aureate, and we've got this either sunset or amethyst. I can never tell them apart. Yeah, I think Master Micah, the reason you were able to sell it for 4 divines is because right now it's brand new. There's lots of people that have a lot of currency, more than they've got anything. More than their goals require, and they're like, oh, let's have a bit of fun with it. Haimon's Fury is a very common unique, not something that I expect there'll be a lot of going around, and I will just check that. How do you spell that item? Haion, that's it. Oh no, there's only 3 of these, compared to Tabula, where the last time I checked there were... And Tabula is actually the second most common tier of unique. There are 37 Tabulas, so a lot of people have submitted Tabulas. Oro's Sacrifice is something that I think we're going to see a lot of. It only takes 1 or 2 of these to be submitted. Again, another very common unique. So we have it in gold and we have it in the sunset or amethyst or whatever that is. I should actually confirm that. Is that amethyst or is it sunset? I can confirm that by doing a search foil variation. Is it amethyst? It is not amethyst. That must therefore be sunset. And it is sunset, yes. So there we go. That's the information I was looking for there. That is the sunset foiling on Oro's Sacrifice there. So the keys drop from... Grand, the keys can drop from any monster that can drop a Divine Orb. So they're basically a drop anywhere item. They are drop restricted level 35 and up. So you're not going to get one before Dominus. But that's sort of where they start dropping. Perseverance, there seem to be a couple of people who've submitted that. And it is a very good item. This is sort of one that's interesting in that whilst the base item is not expensive, I do think that we'll see some value on these over time because this item is incredibly good in the current state of the game. And even though it's reasonably common, we've got 10 of them in circulation from 3 different three different styles. We've got Sunset, we've got Aureate, and we've got Crimson. I do think that we will see a number of people wanting a specific foiling of Perseverance because it's best in slot for a number of builds at the moment. I have not seen Arakali's Fang appear as yet. Patrick Finnegan's has submitted Torrent's Reclamation and is curious when it will be added to the game. You'll get an email from GGG when it is. So they will say it's been added now. And someone's asking, yeah, Arakali's Fang has not been seen. Are keys being sold on Standard? If they're in Standard, there is so much currency in Standard, they'll be super expensive. Last time I checked, I don't think this is still true, but the last time I checked, a Maven's Writ in Standard was like 5 Divine Orbs. And I don't think that's still the case, but that should give you a bit of a sense as to how expensive anything remotely new is there. So Arakali's Fang has been added. Cool. Okay, well, yeah, that'll show up at some point. There is a Devouring Diadem that was dropped very recently, Zoe. Megan Lord's Girdle, that's a fairly common belt. And here we've got the first Tabula. There will be many more of these. Obliteration is one that I'm interested in because this item is genuinely best in slot on a number of builds, but it is also very common. It is 5. There are 5 of these, and there's actually 3 different types. This is an interesting one. I am curious if a lot of these are equipped at the moment. I feel like Tabula is going to be overrepresented in the search results because people don't equip the item. Like, if you've got the wealth to buy a Bling Tabula, you also have the wealth to buy a Skin of the Lords, or at least Skin of the Loyal, sorry. You buy a Skin of the Loyal that's in the right colours, and so I don't think many people are going to equip a Bling Tabula. That means they're going to sit on trade, and probably almost every Tabula that enters the economy from this is going to show up there. Darkness Enthroned is one of the most common boss uniques in the game. Very, 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 well, boss. Yeah, no, it is boss. It is just the Abyss Liches, isn't it? Very, very good item. Extremely, extremely powerful item. And something that's often best item under 50 Divines on a lot of builds. Then you sort of replace it with Headhunter or Mageblood. But this is an extremely good item, and it's something that I think will be fairly common. We'll just check that out, though. How many Darkness Enthroned are there? Darkness Enthroned, Stygian Vice. 7 of them in circulation at the moment from 2 different... This is what the Amethyst looks like. It's much more purple. So you have 3 Amethyst and 4 of the Sunset ones. And that should give you a bit of a sense. That's out of like 400 or so. This is not a rare drop, and it's also one of the most equipped items in the game, which means that many people who pull this out of a Reliquary key might actually equip it straight away. So there's probably more of them in circulation. Hion's Fury again. But Iron Commander is interesting. This item has definitely got some potential. It's popular builds around it at the moment, and it's something that's just a genuinely very good item. Tabula again, we'll see more of them. Death's Oath, I think there's only a small number of these. I was a bit surprised. I feel like there's not very many of this item doing the rounds. 4 of them. But 4 from 3 different setups. So we've got 2 of the green ones, 1 of the Sunset and 1 of the Aureate. So there's a lot of different stuff doing the rounds. I don't know if Replica Dreamfeather's in there, Richard. I do know that replica items seem pretty rare in the way they've weighted it. So as I submitted Replica Cold Iron Point, and I've not seen one of them in trade yet. And I've seen 1 Replica Farrells, which I figured is probably one of the rarer replicas. I have not seen a Replica Dreamfeather, and I don't think I've seen any other replicas for that matter. Golden Facebreaker. Facebreaker is going to be interesting if it rolls well. You're going to end up with something that is going to be very popular, very much in demand. There are a lot of Venter's Gambles going around. Venter's Gamble was made much more common in this, not in this patch, in the last one. So we have a Sunset, we have a green, we have a gold, and we have a red. So there's a bunch of different Venters going around there, and you'll see that there's, yeah, like just huge variance in this. This seems to be the second most common unique that you can get on this, and I think that's just because a lot of people must have submitted it. I have seen a 7-league step going around. Replica Cold Iron Point was Thaumaturgy's Chill Seer's Souls, I believe, Dark Agent. and it was a ruby. It was the red foiling. There is a 7-league step on trade. I don't know if it's your Sunrise one or if it's someone else's. Oh, grats, Dark Agent. I haven't seen it show up on trade yet. Not that I was looking to necessarily pick it up straight away. I don't have a use for it. It's just one of those cool items I know I'll build around at some point in the future. That is cool, though. So I'm glad to see it's gone off once. I won't count that in this. I won't count that in what I'm seeing through here. Just because it would bias the results, because I'm trying to pull them all from one source. And we know there's a bit of a bias looking at them from trade, but that will be the... that may actually be the first one, because there's nothing up for trade. Shackles of the Wretched is one of those items that's just ridiculously funny. Hexes applied by socketed curse skills are reflected back to you is objectively bad for most builds, but there are many situations where having temporal chains on yourself causes you to increase the duration of beneficial effects on you, and that can mean that it's a very strong effect. That's the reason this item exists, and it's definitely cool. Annihilating Light is something I hadn't thought of, but makes a lot of sense. It is one of those really good items, and there's... oh, now here's something I forgot to do. Unique foil, but you also want to set your item level to be a hard maximum of 75 when you're trying to search for them. And that shows us only 2 copies of the Annihilating Light that are in circulation at the moment from these. Now there may be more because this is a widely used item, so if someone loots one of these, they might decide to quickly equip it. Lifesprig is something that has really lost its luster. This item used to be one of those leveling items that everyone used. Now it is just seen as a complete junk item, and there are 6 of these. It has reached its sunset. Someone's gone with a sunset theme for it. Now, this is interesting. This is a tier 5 rarity unique. This is one of the most common uniques in the game. I am starting to suspect that tier 5 items like Lifesprig might be about a 2% chance to show up for each different style that exists, and tier 4 items like Tabula might be 1%, which would then mean that Cold Iron Point tier 3 items would be about a 0.25%, and tier 2 items like a Chevron's Wrappings be about a 0.16%, and tier 1 items might be about a 0.50%. Then your tier 0 items, your Headhunters and the like, will be much rarer again, but there's multiple of those. The power charge one you're asking about is Void Battery, Richard. That is tier 2 rarity, and it has always remained somewhat popular, but it's gone off meta. It's no longer super popular. Got a bunch of tabulas, of course, a bunch of the gold rings. Silver Branch is one. This is another very common item. Quite a useful item if you're leveling a character. Like it genuinely is a good item, but there's actually only one of them. It's got a bunch of extra damage on it and +1 socketed bow gems. It's definitely not something you want to use for long at all, but a 6-link Silver Branch at low level is really solid, and even a 5-link one is really good. Now you can get Thread of Hope Massive Ring, which is interesting here. This is something that I did not know was possible. Thread of Hope that drops from this can have a massive ring, and that is not adjustable. So with your Thread of Hope, if you pull one, it'll either be a normal Cirrus one or an Uber Cirrus one. I might just have a look if there's any other Threads of Hope available. I think there are. So Thread of Hope, Crimson Jewel, and we have 2 of them, massive and massive. It looks like we've only got the Uber Cirrus version here so far. That may change. 50 Divines feels low for that. Yeah. Well, if you want it, Master, then go and trade for it, I guess. It's been up 42 minutes, so it hasn't been trade sniped yet. And I feel like we might see more of these, but we don't know. On the question of how do I know rarity for uniques, there's a list that was put out by Poor Fishwife, who has been doing tremendous research on it. I haven't completely committed it to memory or anything, but I have a good sense from that. Poor Fishwife has updated her work in 3.16. Then additionally, she has kept an eye, she's kept an eye on it since, and I've kept following her work. And sometimes, basically, we assume that an item stays the same tier unless we've got fairly compelling evidence it's changed. And so things like Asenath's Gentle Touch and what's the other one? What's the other ring? Beric's Respite. Those appear to have dropped from Tier 1 to Tier 3 in patch 3.19. When they did that pass of buffing a bunch of uniques, they also made a bunch of them more common. And in that, Asenath's Gentle Touch went from Tier 1 to Tier 3, we think. Maybe it's Tier 2, but we think it's 3. And Beric's Respite definitely went from 1 to 3. Paradoxica is an interesting one. I will check on that. Do you know that Paradoxica exists? Oh, yes. Okay, there you go. There's a Paradoxica up there for trade. Tier 0 foils. There is a Mage Blood that exists in a screenshot, but not for trade that I'm aware of. So there is definitely one Mage Blood doing the rounds. I think someone linked a screenshot of their guild chat where it was linked. I was on the PathOfExile subreddit. Kana Coolamac will be an interesting one. I'm assuming that this will be a fairly rare item from these Reliquary keys. Although there are two versions of it. You got it available as a Sunset and you got it available as a Cobalt. I quite like the Cobalt foiling, and it looks really good on standard Cold Iron Point. Someone did standard Cold Iron Point in that. So we have Wings of Entropy. What a Covenant that is sold. Yeah, because someone listed the Covenant for 2.5 Divines. That was a mistake. So someone's had a Covenant that they've gone and then sold, and this one was a 5-link as well. But it's Cobalt. This is going to be rare. The Covenant is a very rare item now. I believe it's Tier 1 rarity, and it's also meta at the moment. But there is also a different shiny one. There's also a gold version of it. So there's a bunch of these doing the rounds. Venter's Gamble again, Darkness Enthroned again. Watcher's Eye will be interesting. There is both 2 and 3 possible on this. I have seen a 3 mod 1 doing the rounds as well. Okay, we've got a Terminus S there. I'll just have a quick look at this. There's a lot of copies of Terminus S doing the rounds. This is a popular item because it is genuinely good on Frenzy Raiders. At least on some versions. Oh no, sorry, it's on non-Raider versions of the Flicker Strike builds. It's a good starter item there. Now, I don't think it's going to be accessible early, but it's something that's there as a genuinely useful item, and that's why 3 different types of it exist. This is going to be something you're not going to be happy to pull because it exists in so many different colors, and it's also a very cheap item. Like, the base version is very cheap, but this is also an item that could be quite expensive if it was raised in rarity. Like, if GGG pushed this up to Tier 2 rarity, I think it's the sort of thing that'd be a Divine Orb when it dropped. But it's too common at the moment to be worth anything. Diala's Malefaction is next. Very, very good item. Tier 1 rarity. And something that there's only one of yet. Because the Reliquary key respects how rare the specific item is. Soul Mantle I've seen a few of. This is an item that has fallen off in favour, since the nerfs to, was that totem build, Forbidden Rite totems, but it is definitely still usable, and there's a bunch of different colourings of it. We've got the Sunset, we've got the Ruby, we've got the Cobalt, lots of different stuff that's available there, and that's going to be something that I think a fair number of people will want to use, because this item is best in slot for some builds. Crown of the Inward Eye is an interesting one. I don't know. I'm going to check on that. Crown of the Inward Eye. One sec. None have been discovered as yet, or at least none are for trade yet. Hey, Jared. I'm going through the various stuff that exists in the Reliquary keys. What little we know so far, which is not very much. The keys only went live about 6 hours ago, and a lot of people are just trading them off because they're so expensive currently. It's like they've been trading, well, initially they were 8 Divines. They've fallen to about 3 now, but they are continuing to sell faster than they're dropping. I think they'll settle around 100C, but for now, if you want to be one of the first people to open them, then you can pay a premium for that if you want. Is there an Art Series Reflection in here? I hadn't seen an Art Series Reflection yet. Atzuri's Reflection, nothing found so far. These are drop anywhere items that can drop from any monster that can drop a Divine Orb. So basically Dominus and later in the game. So Act 4 and later, pretty much. I haven't seen a video of a guy opening 20, but that's the sort of thing that pushes the price up. Being first and people who can throw half a mirror away in order to be first and open 20, that's one of the things that pushes the price of them up early on. Dancing Dervish is one. I don't know how rare this item is now. It's something that is genuinely... has been popular in the past. What are we looking at? 8 of them. This feels like it's quite common. So you'll notice that they're all the Sunset style, which makes me think there's only been one submission. I think Dancing Dervish might actually be a tier 5 rarity unique, which is the most common type. I've seen a few Abysses going around. Worm's Molt is one that is another that we're going to also have a lot of going around. So we have 8 copies of Worm's Molt, but that is of multiple different types. So maybe this is now tier 4. This used to be a tier 5 rarity unique back when it was really rubbish. But when they upped the stats on it, I think that it may have been improved. It may have been made rarer. It's still not rare though. Yeah, my replica cooldown point isn't listed, but someone in chat said they've had one. And yeah, Stefan Martins is saying that a lot of the boss uniques have foils already, and that's the reason they didn't pick one. That's not true of stuff like Katarina, I think. And although most of the Katarina stuff has been added. I haven't seen a Cinder Swallow Urn yet, but I think I've seen everything else. The colours are just purely cosmetic Maltesers. There's no relevance to them. The name of the key on trade is Voidborn Reliquary Key. And Veil of the Night... Oops, might have a fucking spell. Veil of the Night, non-replica version. We only have 2, 1 gold and 1 sunset. And I don't think this item is super common. It's one that no one ever wants, but I don't think it's super common. Replica uniques are eligible, yes, SK. Mine is a replica cooldown point, and someone in chat has pulled it. Can you ancient orb them while keeping the colours? I believe the answer is no. I believe you lose the foiling if you do that. If you want to test that though and let me know, you can probably pick up a Worm's Molt for like 20C, and you can test that. Yeah, one person has submitted that was their flavor text for Veil of the Night. They submitted Veil of the Night and they said it's just, I'm sorry. Perseverance, Tabula Rasa, Perseverance again, Hari's Truth again, a bunch of repeats there. The Druggery, this is the only copy of this that I've seen so far, I think. We'll just check if that's correct. I believe there's only the one copy. Yeah, there's only one copy of it on trade. I feel like this could be quite rare because the base item is quite rare. Calm Sign, we've got Thrill Steel, and Lifesprig again. Queen's Decree, I think I've only seen one copy of that, which is interesting because the item is not rare. No, there are 3. Okay, so there's one version of it, but it's 3 different ones of it. There's the cool looking Venter's Gamble. I love the red, especially on this item, honestly. This one looks fantastic. Abrath's Horn has been done, unfortunately. This is a tier 5 rarity unique, so it'll drop a lot. At least it used to be. I'll just check if it still is. Abrath's Horn, Goat Horn. Yeah, 3 of them around, all from one layout, so one setup, so that's probably the same. Pillar of the Caged God is another one that I'd forgotten that item existed because it's been off my loot filter for so long. Is it a long stuff or an iron stuff? No, it is the iron stuff. There's 2 different versions of that. There was a historic version. There's only 2 of those, so maybe that has been made rarer than it used to be, or maybe people just have been lucky in not getting it. Fortune Mike, no, it drops to anyone. It drops to anyone regardless of whether or not you've got the supporter pack. The supporter packs basically are about suggesting an item to be in it, not about you don't get any bias towards getting the item drop. Yeah, Dark Agent, that was my replica cooldown point. Legacy of Fury is an interesting item. This is super common. This is a Maven drop. It's one of the most common, if not the most common item from the Maven, but it is also one of the best, partly because it was terrible for a while, and then GGG buffed it, but they buffed it really hard. So this is now dropping quite a lot. There's 7 of them. So we got a sunset, we got a green, another sunset, another green, another sunset, another sunset, another sunset. So this could just be 2 submissions, and this looks fantastic. I'm surprised that there is not a Crimson version of Legacy of Fury. I felt like an item that has such strong synergy for fire would be something that shows up on it. The replica cooldown point is Thaumaturgy's Chill Sears Souls. So I just went for something that was that was just a basic, basic fantasy vibe, not anything specifically GGG or PathOfExile specific on it. There is one Replica Elbron's Warpath that I've seen. This is one of the biggest value of the replica items. So Replica Elbron's Warpath and Replica Farrell's Fur both exist, and they are extraordinarily good items, and they are both in this. They've already both been found. We may or may not see things like Replica Headhunter or even Replica Bated Breath if someone wanted to have a joke. But Replica Elbron's Warpath is one of the best items in the game right now, and I've only seen the one of them. Asenath's Gentle Touch was made much more common in 3.19 and is a very, very good item now. I have not seen Anathema yet. That is a good question. I will check on that. Does Anathema exist? The answer is no. No one has found it yet, or at least if they have, they haven't listed it for sale. We had a pillar before. Coming Calamity is a sort of item I really like to see here because this is best in slot for someone. This is a sort of item that is best in slot and very niche though. Just answering some of the questions, the Divine to Chaos conversion, I believe, I'm trying to think if I have the TFT extension on here. I don't think I have I think I have one of the other trade extensions. I honestly can't remember which one it is. Oh, that would be evil, SK. That would be evil. That would be evil, evil, evil. And the foiling effect, I don't know how the foiling effect preserves through various things like skin transfer or varling even. Like if you were to varl one of these into a rare item, I assume it loses the foiling, but I'm not certain on that. But yeah, Coming Calamity is cool. This is one of those items that people don't really run very much, but it just does something awesome. The whole, like, you can run a 6-link Herald for 45%, or you can run 2 5-link Heralds, or a 5-link and a 6-link Herald, 5-link being in a pseudo-link somewhere, or even 2 6-links if you're using that Annihilating Light Staff. You can do a lot of things with Coming Calamity that are cool, and it will have your back in making your reservation 45%. It really fell off in popularity a lot, though, with the overhaul to mana reservation in 3.16. Are there foil versions of flasks? I'm going to confirm that. I believe there are, but there definitely are for the there definitely are for some of the others. So let's just check in the flask category. So some of the ones that are the boss foils. No, it doesn't look like there's anything here. So, oh, wait, no, there's just no foils for flasks at all. I'm wrong. I thought you could get a foil Ariath's End, and I'm just wrong on that. So the answer is no. There's no foil flasks in League at all. That I was not expecting. So we got Femurs of the Saints, just one of those common minion items. Life Sprig, Aura Sacrifice, just looking for things that are more interesting and different here. Stampede is something that's a bit cool. So this is an item that is probably pretty rare. Hang on, I gotta take off the flasks section. So anything and foil and that. There's 4 copies of this and they're all sunset style. So maybe that's not as rare as I thought it was. I had name search. Let me have another look at that. Anathema Moonstone Ring. No Anathema's there. Oh, I had Anathema during my flask search. Okay, I follow what you mean now. Yeah, okay, that was what I was thinking. Something was a bit weird. Very easy to make these sorts of mistakes here. So let's just, oops, flask, unique foil, 75 down, search. Okay, there we go. Kiara's Determination, Rotgut, and Writhing Jar. Cool. Thank you for pointing out that I had got something wrong there, because it happens all the time. And one of the good things about doing this on a stream is that when I make some stupid mistake, people can figure it out in real time and can point it out and I can correct it. Or alternately, I can just get it wrong. Something that's going to be really interesting and really disappointing, honestly, to get a unique map is going to suck in these. Like, to get a unique consumable out of one of these is going to be the ultimate troll, because there is nothing lasting about the foiling effect here. It'll feel like getting a replica out of a replica map out of a Grand Heist. It's like, it's just gone and it feels like just the normal version. So unique maps are quite funny. Like, this is definitely a troll. And yeah, there's Rotgut, so proving again that we were wrong. Here's a 2 Mod Watcher's Eye. As I said, I have seen a 3. Black Sun Crest is an interesting item. This is only good if it's divined well, so don't think that this is going to be something people are going to want to sink much into, but it is something that will be a cool lottery. There's our Kiara's Determination. Really like this in Crimson Foil. This looks fantastic. There's something about the Crimson Foil in general looks really good. Mage Blood is definitely in the pool. Headhunter I believe to be in the pool as well. And not just Mage Blood in the pool, but it's in multiple times. It's definitely known to be in multiple times. That's just from people self-reporting what they put in. Headhunter I think is in at least once. But there is a Mage Blood that's doing the rounds. Someone had a screenshot over on Reddit, but it was not their Mage Blood. It was a Mage Blood that was linked in their guild chat. A foil Exalted Orb. Well, that suffers from all of the losses of a consumable item like the Strand map. Hey, Andrew, how's it going, mate? Another Tabular and another Perseverance. It feels like there's a lot of these items going around. That's because a lot of people have submitted them. Arcane of Unraveling will be an interesting one. Quite a good item early league. I don't feel like this is something people are going to want to use for very long in a league. And by the time you get this, you might have already out-leveled it. But there's 2 different versions of it. So 2 people have submitted Cane of Unraveling, at least. Chance of getting a key, Hussein is asking about. I'm confident it is rarer than a Divine Orb. I am confident it is more common than a Sacred Orb. But that's a huge gulf, and I don't know where in that it finds itself. We'll get a sense of that over people who do a very, very large number of them. Paslav is asking where these items come from. So as of about 12 hours ago, GGG put a patch through where the Voidborn Reliquary key can now drop in game. It can drop from any monster that could drop a Divine Orb. So anything that drops item level 35 and above loot, there's a chance that the item will be replaced by one of these Reliquary keys. Boss drops are allowed if people submit them, and they will be pretty rare. I don't think there is a disfavor yet. We'll just check on that though. So as there is disfavor, we'll search on that. Oh, sorry, I'm wrong. There you go. There's an Atzeri's disfavor for you. So one of them exists in trade. But yeah, basically any drop that could have been a Divine Orb can instead be one of these. Joffrey's Crest. This is actually not a very common item. Now, here's the one that was most interesting to me. Mahoxidal's Machination. This item is cool. This is one of those items that does a lot of very complicated things. It's something that is objectively extremely bad on most builds, but is so strong when it shines that it is worth building around. And Mahoxidal's Machination is just this complex dance where your energy shield stops protecting you, but it starts becoming this currency that you can build up in order to cash it all in for a substantial buff to your maximum resistances for a period. And that's the overall effect of these mods. So as long as you're leeching, you will get 5%. As long as you are leeching a lot, you will get 5% increased maximum to all resistances, which is quite strong. Mahoxidal's Machination, very complex item to understand, but very cool. And it is the only way to get Divine Flesh together with some of these effects. So you then have half your damage attacking in Chaos Resistance instead. This is really, really good. Paslav, no, it will drop for anyone. These keys will definitely drop for people that don't have the what do you call it? Supporter pack. The supporter pack is about being able to influence what items are found inside it. It's the same as divination cards. If you play the game normally and you didn't buy one of the packs that let you design a divination card, you could get divination cards to drop. But if you bought the divination card commission, then you could also influence what they were going to be. And yeah, so there's Brandon in chat saying that he got one from Delve, having not bought the relevant supporter pack. GGG don't do things that provide basically a paid cheat code. That's something they've never done in the game. It is one of those things that's a bit complex. Like, it's easy to get to misinterpret the precise wording that they go with. The top pack that has the Atlas pack is 480 US. It's definitely not cheap. So you have the red Goldrum as the next one. I really like the look of this. Unfortunately, it's a sort of item that you don't wear forever on a character, and it's also terrible to have 30% resist on it. This would be an item that would be a lot better if it had, if this was well rolled and had, 38% resist on it. Then it would be something you'd be happy to use on alternate characters. I feel like if I was going to spend a bunch of Divine Orbs for bling leveling gear, I would go with a double corrupted, what's the name of those boots? 7 League Steps instead. That said, it's still cool. And yeah, there's Eon Flux saying they got one. What did you get in your one in SSF, Eon? Broken Crown is next. I've only seen... This item seems to be a lot rarer than it used to be, which is actually fine because it's not a good item. It's not something people ever want. And there's only 2 of them around. I feel like this could be tier 3 rarity now. I feel like it used to be tier 5, but we'll find out. Bronze Lithe got buffed a lot recently, so a gold version of this is cool because this is the endgame gear for one particular build. It does need to be 6-link to be good, but it is the Frostblink builds. Do some really crazy stuff with it. Monolite, this is something we need to test. If you want to volunteer to jump into Trade League and pick up one of the cheapest of the items that's available and see if you can val it, and let us know, feel free. I believe that the item would lose the foiling treatment. I believe if the artwork changes, not if the artwork changes, if the name of the item changes. Nimbus. Let's have a look if Nimbus exists. Nimbus will exist in foil from the other reliquaries. To answer Halixinus, it will exist in foil from the other reliquaries, but it doesn't exist yet from this. That said, it may show up. Maybe something people have submitted. Farrell's Bite is next, one of the other pieces of the Farrell set. Everyone thinks of Farrell's Fur, but there's 3 other pieces of that set as well. And this is the helmet. This is pretty niche, like not many people want to use this, but it is cool to have it as a choice. And it does a couple of interesting things. Victoria's Influence is endgame gear for a lot of Orobot builds, and so I think this will be something that's reasonably popular. People that want to bling out their Orobot character, they'll definitely get something significant out of that. And we have Dead Reckoning. There's a couple of these doing the rounds. I think that it's not that rare. Dead Reckoning. There was so much trouble people had finding out what the vendor recipe for this was. I think it'll be something people will remember for a long time. But GGG don't consider it particularly rare because all it takes is I think it's a Cobalt Jewel from memory, and no, sorry, it's a Summon Skeletons gem that's level 20, that's 20 quality from memory, or maybe it's gem level 20, and you also need to have a 5 times Chance Orb recipe. So all the pieces of the 5 times Chance Orb recipe. Steve, the Voidborn Reliquary can drop from any monster in the game that could drop a Divine Orb, so item level 35 and up loot. We don't know how rare they are yet. The key should currently be, if you've got an unupdated version of Neversink, it should show up as, I think it's the pink, there's a this item is not recognized setting on Neversink that really stands out. Aegis Aurora, of course, is one of the biggest hits you can get. There's a couple of these doing the rounds, although I expect this is an item that, because it's so ubiquitous, most people will equip it. Ouch, this person's selling theirs for 8 divines. I think they're going to get 1,000 demands to buy that. Unless they're maybe a price fixer, maybe they've just logged off because they're so annoyed by all the pings they were getting after making a mistake with pricing it. And you've also got it in Sunset, but the Cobalt foiling looks phenomenal on this item. And there's, yeah, as I say, there's 8 of them. This is one of the things that's probably going to push the price of the key up. That is a very good idea. Someone has said, drop location on key. Any monster that drops eye level 35 plus loot. Rare, but not sure how rare. Not sure if very rare. Okay, so let's see if I can do that. Pin. Can we make that pin work? How do I do that again on YouTube? So it's all pin message. Excellent. Done. All right. Thank you. That was a good suggestion. So it shows up pink on NeverSync. That's a good one. Relic of the Past, Relic of the Pact. Nothing has been found yet, or at least nothing has been listed to trade. Here's another one of the Dancing Dervish. We've already had that. Bitter Dream. This item is a lot better than it used to be. Cosbury's Malice is something that I've seen a couple of doing the rounds. I think there's 2 different versions of it. This is an item that is a bit off meta at the moment, but is still very good, and I like both the looks of these, the Cobalt and the Crimson. I think they both look really good. Belly of the Beast, solid early starter gear, and actually looks really good in Ruby, especially with when you don't see the sockets on it. Adsiri's Acuity I expect will be quite rare. This is a genuinely very rare boss drop from Uber Adsiri. I haven't seen Elevore yet, the Legendary Nightfall. I've seen the other item that came out at the same time, the Onslaught Helmet, but I haven't seen Elevore. It'll just be the colouring on the tooltip, and also on the item itself when it's like in your inventory. Okay, so we've got Ancient Skull here, which I feel like is something we probably had a couple of before. Let's have a look. I know there's only one. I thought I'd seen more than one of those, but it looks like there's only one. Ventors we had a lot of, and that appears to actually be the whole list of them. Let's have another look and see what's come up very recently, like in the last 20 minutes or so. Oh, Red Blade Banner, that's nice. This item's really build defining, and so that's something that'll be really cool. Ventors and Auras we already had. Obliteration again. Oppressor there's a bunch of going around. Stampede, Worm's Molt, Facebreaker. Another Mahoxtals, or maybe it's the same one has been relisted at a higher price because it's such a good item and was probably underpriced before. And we have a Chevron's Wrappings at last. So Chevron's Wrappings we hadn't seen yet. There is a Stasis Prison in the pool. Someone has said that they submitted Stasis Prison, but it wouldn't surprise me if Stasis Prison isn't found for a while because that item is expensive. And that item is very, very rare. Like, there's a lot less of them around than there are Mage Bloods or Headhunters and things like that. So it wouldn't surprise me if we don't see a Stasis Prison for a while. Or if there's like only 5 or 6 of them in the league. Endless Misery, the Discharge Jewel. Kind of niche, but kind of cool. Whispering Ice is another one I kind of like here. This is one of those items that's not seen as all that good. It's certainly not valuable, but it does something unique and different, and as a result, it's quite a good item. I like that on a lot of these items, where there's something that's a bit niche. Brightbeak looks fantastic in red. Iron Commander we'd seen before, Oppressor we'd seen, and are we back to where we were before? No, we're not quite yet. There's a new Goldrum. So there's a bunch of other stuff. I really like these massive Threads of Hope showing up here. That's going to be something really, really noticeable. Deity and Dawn again, starting to see more of those. I think we will start seeing a lot more of these get opened over time. There's an Ashes of the Stars. Mist Shield is Mistwall, isn't it? I'll have a look on that. Mistwall. You're talking about the original Mistwall or the replica? Because they could both actually be done. I'll just check both. No, neither Mistwall is listed so far. For the Squire, I believe someone said they've submitted it. It'll be a long time till the Squire is found. And Whispering Ice does something unique. It crashes hideouts. Forbidden Shaco will be really interesting. That seems to be quite rare, actually. Forbidden Shaco will be... Yeah, there's only one copy of it. This is an item that was made much more common in 3.19 with the Divine Orb Shake-Up. So they made it so that the Shaco itself was more common to make up for the fact that you're going to be able to invest less Divine Orbs into it. Queen of the Forest definitely is a good item, very niche. Tavukai is good in its niche as well, the SRS amulet. Not something that everyone wants, but it does something that's genuinely unique and useful. And I think we might be getting back to... Oh, no, Skin of the Lords, we hadn't seen that yet. Another Chevron's Wrappings, so this is a Golden Chevron's Wrappings. It looks like a bunch of new stuff is getting pulled out, like even just during the time we've done this stream, there have been 2 Chevron's Wrappings show up, and this was the first item at the start of the stream, from memory. Someone had corrupted their deity in Dawn. Oh no, Hands of the High Templar, I don't think we saw that earlier. So there's a bunch of stuff showing, Skin of the Loyal, lots of cool items that are popping up in here that we didn't have when this stream started. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff going around. The prices of 10 mirrors, like, people will post things ridiculously high sometimes just because they want to get a sense. Like you see 69 faceted lenses. That's ridiculous. Yeah, foils only have a different visual. That's all they're there for. They're just there as bling. They don't have any mechanical advantage. They're just like, oh yeah, here's something that looks cool and different. Xanathus Cassock is in there, so it's very common unique, so that'll show up a fair bit. Piscator's Vigil is not as common as people often think it is. Not that it's rare, but it's just not super common. And then we've got Thief's Torment, which is another item that's really useful, like, at some gear levels. This is one of those items that can be a bit dubious at times, but it is often really good. Note that you can't use other rings, but you do get a big boost to quantity, and you get a bunch of resistances, like 40-something resists, and a lot of life per enemy hit with attacks, as well as mana. This can be really good in some situations. And I think at this point, yeah, now we've got 2... now we are definitely back to where we started, because we had the unidentified Hion's Fury that came straight after Sappho's Frame and the Devouring Diadem and a couple of Prism Guardians. So I think we've now seen everything that exists so far. Opening the keys will be fun, yeah. Opening the keys will be something that people have a lot of fun with. Ice Tomb hasn't shown up yet. That's interesting. I didn't realise Ice Tomb was rare. Let's have a look, see. Yeah, I don't see it at all. Calandra's Touch has been submitted, yes. It'll also be rare. I'm only aware of one submission of Calandra's Touch. Whereas I think there's like 5 or 6 Mage Bloods, so that means that when you open one of these, you'll have like 5 or 6 times the chance to get a Mage Blood as you will to get a Calandra's Touch. Of course, there may be more than I'm aware of. You know, more of one, less of another that I'm aware of. That's something that we'll just have to find out over time. Has anyone in chat submitted something that we don't know has shown up? Oh, there's a Replica Emberwake. That's something we hadn't seen. Hogg'em. Alright, this is funny. If you're going to do a map, this is the right one to do. Hall of the Grandmasters. The ultimate troll map. Like, this is trolling 101. Oh, Mikalaya's got Replica Elbron's Warpath. That's nice. There's another Replica Elbron's Warpath doing the rounds as well. I did see one of them going, like, absolutely nuts item that is. One of the strongest items in the game, and there's a really strong build this league with it that uses Replica Elbron's Warpath in conjunction with the original Sin. So the original Sin was added in 3.20.1. That's the ring that converts all your elemental damage to chaos and causes your chaos damage to ignore enemy resistances. That in conjunction with Replica Elbron's Warpath and a weapon and a Brutus's Lead Sprinkler lets you do ridiculous amounts of chaos damage based upon your character's strength. And yeah, you can do some nut stuff. Yeah, Lungrex, anyone can find the key. I don't know if it exists in Ruthless, but if you're playing in any other rule set, yeah, it just drops from anything that can drop a Divine Orb. Don't know how rare yet, but it's definitely more common than a Sacred Orb or personally seeing a Chevron's Wrappings drop, but it's not super common either. Yeah, I've been playing Strength Stacking a bit lately. I'm going to be jumping back in for Badger Private League, which is on the weekend my time, so now it's Thursday night, 8 PM, so right now, plus 34 hours is Badger Private League. I'm going to be streaming that over on Twitch rather than here, though. There is a foil writhing jar, yeah. That looks nice. I think it's a cobalt foil. So there is a bunch of really cool stuff that's showing up there. And I think that we're going to see more of this as people start discovering some of the chase stuff. So we're seeing... Oh, perfect roll facebreaker. That's cool. I mean, it's not worth a mirror, but it's cool. And Victoria's influence. There's a whole lot of good stuff there. Oh, you're on the Merchants team, are you, Dark Agent? Yeah, I'm on Team Merchant for... I'm on Team Merchant for Badger Private League, which should be fun. Badger Private League, for those of you that haven't played, unfortunately this one's full, so you have to wait for the next one, which will be 5 weeks into the next league. But it's a really fun event that's like... It's not as competitive as racing in Path of Exile, but it is also not what I would say is particularly a super casual event either. It's competitive without being hyper competitive, and it's basically a team scavenger hunt to hunt down almost every unique in the game. Yeah, the uncorrupted pacifism feels like it's a mistake. So let's point that one out. Thank you for saying that, Stephen, in chat. Pacifism. This duel is bad. This duel is objectively really bad. But it is dropped. It is something that you can normally only get through corruption, and it is a bad item to get from corruption. However, there's one that exists that is non-corrupted here. Now, this means you could get a Vile Implicit or even 2 Vile Implicits on this, which is not something you can normally get in the game. And you could also... I'm just trying to think what else could be done with this. You can't Ancient Orb Jewels anymore anyway. There's probably some weird things that could happen with it. So this should not happen, and this item is bugged. But because it's so harmless, because the item is... broadly speaking, weaker than a Scoured Viridian Jewel would be on most builds. And the builds that have some sort of synergy are just not very good. People don't want it. Impossible Escape is a good point. I think I've seen one, actually. I think I've seen an Impossible Escape. It may have sold. I'm pretty sure I saw one earlier when I was researching for this stream. Yeah, Maester Micah, like, there's a genuine use to pacifism. The thing is that the use is not very strong. There's a number of mechanics that benefit you if your character is at maximum frenzy charges. There's also a number that benefit you if you're at minimum frenzy charges. If you can get your maximum and minimum frenzy charges to equal each other, then you get both of those all the time. And one way to do that is increasing your minimum frenzy charges. The other way is decreasing your maximum. Broadly speaking, though, you would never equip it. It does just look really weird. It is a cool, weird item. I think as a curiosity, it's interesting. I also don't think it's any good. I don't think it's anything anyone will want to have. Anyways, I wasn't intending this to be a super long stream. Hopefully that's sort of gone through some of the stuff that's known so far. It's not like a lot is known about these reliquary keys. We're going to keep finding new items, get added to them. You know, oh, Brutus Lead Sprinkler, that looks amazing. That actually looks really, really, really amazing. So there's going to continue to be things like this where a cool item shows up as we're playing through the game over the next few days. I think we'll start to see more copies of things like the Mage Bloods come out of them. We'll start to see these keys fall in price, the point that more casual players feel like, oh, I can open this, rather than, oh, that's just an unacceptable risk of currency. But I really like the way they look for the moment. I think they're just fun and interesting. It's a fun and interesting little toy that, as I say, I feel like will settle around 100 chaos once people once we no longer have the situation where people that have got built up amassed wealth are like, I just want to buy a bunch of these to play around with. And once we get to the point that it's just people who want to use them buying them, but not with massively amassed currency from period to time. Mike, they're no different. They're just functionally the same as the base version. They just look cool. That's all. Current key price, I better check on that because I was going to give you the price of them a couple hours ago, and that would be very wrong. So Voidborn Reliquary key is... oh, they've gone back up to 4 and a bit now. They were down to 2.5 before. Sorry, no, not 2.5, 3.5. They've gone back up. Presumably someone is making a video where they're going to be turning in 50 of them on screen or something. But I don't think they'll stay at this price. As I say, I think they'll fall to 100C or so. And this will be, like, stacked decks have a fairly... Like, stacked decks, the price of them is based upon the actual value of the cards you average to get. Whereas something like the Void is biased towards the potential for some huge, crazy jackpot that is seen on screen. Where someone might be like, oh, a 1 in 75,000 chance to get a Mage Blood might actually be worth a lot more than 1/75,000th of a Mage Blood, because if it goes off, it'll be this huge moment on their stream or whatever. There's a lot of that gambling effect on those currency items, on those sorts of gamble items. And you see that especially with the reliquary keys from the Uber bosses. But yeah, Milos, these are core drop pool. Any monster that can drop a Divine Orb can drop these. So yeah, I think they'll settle a lot lower than they are now, because there's a lot of junk. You know, 10% of these are dropping you a Tabula, and there's a whole bunch of other things that are just genuinely disappointing drops that you can get. But there's a few things that are really, really exciting. Anyways, I wasn't intending this to be a long stream. Like I said, I'm going to call it at this point. And for those of you that are interested in watching Badger Private League, as I said, it is too late to join now. I believe Badger Private League is completely filled for 320. But do keep an eye out for it in 321. 1 month after League starts, start looking around, because that'll be the time to request to join it. I'm going to be playing it and streaming over on Twitch. So that'll be twitch.tv/SirGog. And there'll be a bunch of other people streaming for it as well. It'll be 4 days of, 4 days of camaraderie. My goal is to get as many of our team 6 links as I can. That's my job, basically, early on anyway. And that'll change over as things progress. So I'll be using some sort of magic find strategy with a goal to getting as many 6 links as we can for our team. And there'll be other people on the team whose goal is to get people through Eternal Labyrinth. Get people to 75 Atlas bonus. Get people into Heist and getting all the uniques out of Heist for the scavenger hunt there. Whole lot of cool stuff like that. Ruthless I have still been playing a bit, but not much in the background. I'm still in Act 9. It's just a matter of finding time for it. I do like Ruthless. I find it's a lot of fun. It's just that when I committed to playing Badger Private League, that was a big time sink. And I have just had a couple of things come up that I've been busy. So Ruthless was my second priority this league. It has been fun though. Ruthless is definitely worth checking out. I should probably stream it more, to be honest. But yeah, thanks all. May your Valobs have interesting results, and may your Voidborn Reliquary keys give you the rewards that you deserve.